20 most terrifying rules for Nicolás Maduro's wife. And the first one is worse than losing everything she owns. Living in Venezuela's presidential palace might sound like a dream, but for Cilia Flores, it's more like a golden cage. From having her phone calls monitored by Cuban spies to being forced to smile while her country struggles, Maduro's wife lives under rules that would make anyone's skin crawl. They call her the First Combatant of Venezuela, but behind closed doors, she's more like a prisoner in her own home. Want to know the craziest part? These rules get even more shocking as we count them down. Number 20. Public image prison. Every time you see Cilia Flores on TV, what you're really watching is a carefully directed show. She can't just throw on whatever clothes she wants or speak her mind. Everything, and I mean everything, has to match Maduro's vision of power. Those bright red outfits she always wears? They're not a fashion choice. Red represents the revolution, and she's required to wear it at every public event. And those events? She can't skip them, even if she's sick or exhausted. Back in 2019, when Venezuela was facing its worst blackouts, Cilia had to stand next to Maduro, smiling and waving, while millions of Venezuelans couldn't even keep their food from spoiling. Can you imagine having to smile while your country suffers? Number 19. Cuban eyes everywhere. Here's something that'll make your jaw drop. Cilia Flores can't even go to the bathroom without Cuban intelligence knowing about it. That's right. Cuba's spies are everywhere in Venezuela's presidential palace. Remember those old spy movies where every room is bugged? Well, this is actually happening in real life. Every phone call, every whispered conversation, every private moment, it's all being monitored by Cuban agents. They're called assessors or advisors, but really, they're there to make sure nobody, not even Maduro's wife, can make a move without Havana knowing about it. What's even crazier? These spies report directly to Cuba before they report to Maduro himself. Number 18. The family power game. Think running Venezuela is just Maduro's job. Think again. Cilia Flores had to turn her entire family into government officials. It wasn't a choice. They call her the First Combatant. But behind the scenes, she's known as La Jefa, the boss. Why? Because she's placed over 40 family members in key government positions. Her son, Nicolás Maduro Guerra, became a powerful congressman. Her nephews? They got cushy jobs in the oil industry. Even her sisters landed spots in Venezuela's Supreme Court. But here's the scary part. If any of them step out of line or disagree with Maduro, they don't just lose their jobs, they could lose everything. Number 17. The media puppet show. Remember those old puppet shows where someone pulls all the strings? That's exactly what happens every time Cilia appears on TV. But these aren't just any strings. They're made of pure fear. She has a strict script for every interview, and if she goes off script, well, let's just say it's not pretty. In 2016, when a reporter asked her about Venezuela's medicine shortage, she had to stick to the official line that everything was fine, even though hospitals couldn't even get basic supplies. Her wardrobe, every outfit is pre-approved, her speeches, written and double-checked by regime loyalists. Even her facial expressions are monitored. That's why you'll never see her frown in public, no matter how bad things get. One wrong move, one wrong word, and the consequences aren't just for her. They're for her entire family. Number 16. Money. Under a microscope. Imagine having billions in your family's control, but not being able to buy a cup of coffee without someone watching. That's Cilia's reality. When the US slapped sanctions on Venezuela's first family in 2017, her life got even more complicated. Every single penny that moves through her accounts is tracked like a hawk. Want to know something crazy? She can't even use international credit cards or PayPal. The same woman who allegedly controls vast fortunes through front companies has to have every purchase approved and documented. And those fancy designer bags she loves? She can't just go shopping. Everything has to be bought through specific channels to avoid detection. Some say she has secret accounts in Dubai and Turkey, but one wrong move with that money could bring the whole house of cards crashing down. Number 15. Travel troubles. You'd think being married to a president means you can jet off anywhere you want, right? Wrong. Cilia Flores lives in a country-sized cage. When she does travel, it's like a military operation. She can only visit friendly countries like Cuba, Russia, or Turkey. Remember when she tried to visit Paris in 2019? French authorities made it clear she wasn't welcome. Even trips inside Venezuela are a nightmare. She needs approval for every movement, every stop, every person she meets. And here's the kicker. She always needs a team of at least 12 security guards watching her every move. Even bathroom breaks are coordinated like some kind of special ops mission. The woman who once freely traveled the world as a lawyer now needs permission just to visit her hometown. Number 14. Palace Prison Rules. Get this. Cilia Flores lives in Miraflores Palace, one of the most luxurious buildings in Venezuela. But she might as well be living in Fort Knox. The palace runs like a military base with some seriously weird rules. She can't even open a window without security clearance. And that's not a joke. The palace is divided into safe zones and compromised zones, and Cilia needs different permissions for each area. There's even a special bunker where she and Maduro have to sleep when there are protests in Caracas. The craziest part? She can't have any personal photos on display that haven't been approved by security. They say it's because foreign spies could use them to gather intelligence. But come on, who's really spying on family vacation photos? Number 13. The Trusted Circle Trap. You know how most people can hire their own staff? Well, Cilia can't even choose who makes her morning coffee. Every single person who works for her, from her hairdresser to her chef, has to pass through 3 levels of security checks. And these aren't your normal background checks. We're talking full-on investigations by Venezuelan intelligence, Cuban advisors, and Russian security experts. In 2018, one of her most trusted maids was fired and disappeared just because she was caught talking on the phone about Cilia's daily routine. The scariest part? Most of her staff are actually undercover intelligence officers reporting her every move. Even her personal assistant, who's been with her for 10 years, is required to submit daily reports about everything Cilia does, says, or even hints at. Number 12. The party never stops. Think your job is demanding? Cilia Flores has to work for Venezuela's ruling party 24/7, and we're not talking about fun parties with cake and music. As the wife of the PSUV's leader, she's forced to attend every single party event. We're talking 3 or 4 rallies every week. But here's the wild part. She can't just show up. She has to memorize specific slogans, practice exact hand gestures, and even learn new party songs. Back in 2020, she had to repeat the phrase, "Somos Venezuela," exactly 47 times in one speech. Someone was actually counting. And if she messes up, let's just say Maduro's not known for his patience when it comes to party loyalty. Number 11. The family business nightmare. Everyone knows politics and business don't mix, right? Well, nobody told the Maduro Flores clan. But here's the catch. While Cilia's family controls huge chunks of Venezuela's economy, she's trapped in a golden web of her own making. Every business deal has to be approved by not 1, not 2, but 3 different government offices. Even crazier? Her nephews tried to break free from these rules in 2015, and boom, they ended up in a US prison for drug trafficking. Now she has to personally sign off on every single business move her family makes. Sources say she spends hours every night reviewing paperwork just to make sure nobody steps out of line. One wrong signature, one missed detail, and it's not just money at stake, it's her family's freedom. Number 10. Social media lockdown. You think your Instagram posts need approval from your friends? Cilia Flores can't even like a tweet without a team of experts checking it first. Venezuela has what they call the Social Media Command Center. Sounds like something from a sci-fi movie, right? Well, it's real, and they monitor every single click Cilia makes online. In 2021, she accidentally liked a post criticizing gas shortages, and within minutes, the entire presidential palace was in chaos. She had to make a public statement saying her account was hacked. These days, she has a team of 15 people who manage her social media. They even have to plan her emojis 3 days in advance. Can you imagine needing government approval to post a simple heart emoji? Number 9. The diplomatic dance. Being first lady usually means attending fancy dinners and meeting world leaders. But for Cilia, it's more like walking through a minefield in high heels. She has a 200-page manual of diplomatic rules she has to follow. Want to know how crazy it gets? She can't eat in public at international events because they're afraid someone might photograph her taking a greedy bite. During a 2019 visit to Russia, she had to practice drinking from a teacup 50 times. because the rules say she can only lift it with 3 fingers, not 2 or 4. And here's the kicker. She has to memorize a list of approved topics for small talk. If someone asks about the weather, she has to check if that topic is on the approved list before answering. Number 8. Security Squad Secrets. Think your overprotective parents were bad? Cilia's security team makes them look like amateurs. She has a rotating team of 24 bodyguards. But plot twist, they're not there to protect her, they're there to watch her. Every guard has to be personally approved by both Maduro and Cuban intelligence. And get this, they have to take a special 6-month course just to learn how to report her activities. In 2022, one guard got fired just for telling Cilia what time it was without getting permission first. They even have a special code name for her, Precious Cargo. And every time she moves, they have to report it using military-grade encrypted radios. Even her bathroom schedule has to be radioed in with special code words. Number 7. The religion rules. Now this one's really going to shock you. Venezuela's constitution guarantees religious freedom, but Cilia Flores lives by a totally different rulebook. Since Maduro claims he talks to the spirit of Hugo Chavez through a little bird, Cilia has to pretend she believes it too. Every time she visits a church, she has to follow a bizarre ritual. First praising Chavez's spirit, then making the sign of the cross, and finally reciting a special revolutionary prayer. During Easter 2023, she had to attend 5 different churches in one day, each time performing this exact same routine. And if a priest asks her about it, she has to smile and say it's her personal expression of faith. The really crazy part? She can't even pray in private without someone from security standing guard. Number 6. Friendship Prison. Remember when you were a kid and your parents didn't like some of your friends? Well, multiply that by 1,000. Cilia can't have any friends who haven't been approved by Maduro's intelligence service. And we're not just talking about new friends. Even her old school buddies from her days as a lawyer had to be cleared. In 2021, her childhood best friend tried to visit her at the palace. Know what happened? She was turned away at the gate and later investigated for 3 months. The saddest part? Cilia has to submit a monthly report about every conversation she has with anyone outside the government. They even record how many times she laughs during these conversations. No joke. Number 5. Family under the microscope. Think your family group chat is private? For Cilia's family, even saying good morning is a security operation. Every single member of her family, we're talking cousins, nieces, everyone, has to have a tracking app on their phones. In late 2022, her grandson posted a TikTok video from inside their house, and within hours, the entire security team was replaced. But here's where it gets really scary. Each family member has an assigned minder who follows their social media, listens to their phone calls, and even monitors their shopping habits. Last Christmas, one of her nephews bought an iPhone without permission, and suddenly, the whole family had to attend a 3-day loyalty workshop. Can you imagine having to ask permission just to buy a phone? Number 4. Money problems and paranoia. Being rich in Venezuela isn't as fun as it sounds, especially when you're Cilia Flores. Every single bolivar, dollar, or euro that touches her hands has to be documented like it's evidence in a crime scene. Back in early 2023, she tried to help her sister buy medicine from abroad, and guess what happened? The entire transaction had to go through 5 different government offices and took 3 months to approve. But here's the real shocker. She has to carry a special financial tracking device that records every time she handles cash or makes a purchase. They say one time she bought a coffee without reporting it, and Maduro made her entire security team write 100-page reports about the incident. Talk about expensive coffee. Number 3. Crisis mode madness. When things go wrong in Venezuela, and let's be honest, that happens a lot, Cilia has to follow something called the First Combatant Crisis Protocol. Sounds fancy, right? Well, it's actually terrifying. During the massive blackouts in 2023, while regular people were struggling without power, she had to follow an insane set of rules. First, she couldn't show any signs of concern in public, not even a worried look. Second, she had to wear bright colors to boost morale, even though most people couldn't even keep their food from spoiling. And get this, she had to make exactly 3 public appearances per day, each time claiming things were getting better. When she accidentally frowned during one appearance, they made her re-record the entire thing 6 times. Meanwhile, her own family members couldn't even talk about having emergency generators at home because it would make the government look bad. Number 2. The opposition blackout. Now we're getting to the really scary stuff. Remember how in high school you couldn't talk to your ex? Well, Cilia Flores can't talk to anyone who's ever said anything bad about Maduro, and in Venezuela, that's a lot of people. If she even accidentally makes eye contact with an opposition member during a public event, she has to file a report explaining herself. But here's the terrifying part. In 2022, when her own cousin started supporting an opposition candidate, the entire family had to publicly reject him on national TV. They say she cried for days afterward, but couldn't show it in public. The rules are so strict that she once had to leave her favorite restaurant in the middle of dinner because an opposition member's wife walked in. Even crazier, she has a tablet with a constantly updated list of people she's not allowed to interact with, and it includes some of her old college friends. Number 1. The ultimate loyalty test. And finally, we've reached the most horrifying rule of all, the one that makes everything else look like child's play. Cilia Flores must show absolute, unquestioning loyalty to Maduro and his regime, no matter what happens to Venezuela or her family. This isn't just about smiling at cameras or attending events. This is about survival. In 2023, when international pressure was mounting on Venezuela, she had to publicly denounce her own brother because he suggested some economic reforms. The consequence? He disappeared from public view for 3 months. Nobody knows what happened to him during that time. But here's the most chilling part. She has to sign a monthly loyalty pledge that basically says she accepts that her entire family's safety depends on her complete obedience. One wrong move, one slip of the tongue, one moment of doubt, and it's not just her that pays the price, it's everyone she loves. Sources say she keeps a packed emergency bag ready at all times, but she knows there's nowhere to run. Because in Maduro's Venezuela, the walls have ears, and loyalty is the only currency that matters.